Yes. Good morning. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the 35th lecture.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So, welcome to the 35th lecture of Environmental Engineering subject. Today, the topic to be discussed is flotation and water quality in wastewater treatment. So, in the last few classes, just I have kept the video link of the class. Those are self-explanatory, and I didn't find time to have a class. So I have parallel second years, third years of civil department also, yours juniors. So I didn't find time to take the class for your fourth years. So this will be the one more class. So by tomorrow's lecture, we can complete the unit 3 in all aspects. So whatever the topics in the unit 3, so everything will be covered by tomorrow, right? Okay. So we'll start. So in the yesterday's, not yesterday's, in the lecture 34, we have discussed about the topics of the primary process, primary treatment process. What are the last stages you are seeing? So here we'll discuss other new topic, that is the flotation and water quality whenever the wastewater is coming from the industries or residential or stormwater, how the quality to be inspected and what are the sources of this water. And also what is the meaning of flotation, what are the principles of flotation, we'll see in this class. Yes. So majority of the topics have been completed. So we are discussing the new topic is flotation, right? Okay. So the house is coming to an end, right? So this is a picture what this picture depicts how the flow is going from the residential places to the sewer system, right? So this is the main sewer system. 7 is the main sewer system. 1, 2, 3 are the sources of water coming from your house to the sewer system. So where is a 4, where is a 5, where is a 6, 7. So 8, 9, 10, 11. So by seeing this picture, you can write some answers, right? So why I'm showing this pictures means if you see the picture for 1 minute or 2 minutes, you can get some information and you can write some information when you get any question in the exam, right? So that's why the figures are very, very important. Observing the figures are very, very important. It is a good technique of retrieving the information. The information gather cheskodaniki and also to write in a theoretical way, the figures will give the very good source, right? Okay. The next one. So the wastewater treatment. So one question has given, draw the layout of the basic wastewater treatment plant. So the total wastewater management, you can draw in a 3D figure or you can show in a 2D figure just like boxes. Domestic, storm water, industry water, how the pipes are connected, and the main pipe is connected to the treatment plant, and later it is how the secondary water is going, how the balanced water is going to the rivers or seas. So this is one of the figure which you can draw for wastewater management treatment system. And this is for the what are the various treatments. So what are the various treatment methods, or describe the various treatment methods by drawing a layout. And you can draw the figure also, right? So that's why these figures are showing in every slide because of your communication, right? So if you see the other figure, the typical sewage treatment process in Canadian municipalities. So how the simple example is going on. So if this is your house or my house, so from this house the sanitation is coming, water is coming here, and the sanitation is going through. This is the main road, the road. So the red color indicates the sanitary water coming from the house and going into the sanitary sewers, right? So this is storm water, so which is coming from the rain. So the rain is coming, the rain is falling on the ground outside. It is collected with this strainer where the rainwater is going down and it is collected in this strong sewer pipe, whereas the sanitary sewer is collected in the sanitation sewer and it is going into the grid chamber, right? So this is going to the grid chamber. Here it is the two The water is collected at the top surface, the grids are collected at the bottom surface, and these are going from grid chamber to the primary treatment tanks where the treatment is going on. From this third stage, it is going to the aeration tank for cleaning. So here the air is supplied into the tanks, thereby it will be separated, right? So again from the fourth stage, it is going to the secondary treatment. So up to మనం fourth వరకు మనం discuss చేస్తున్నాం, right? So it is going to the secondary treatment tank where it is located for some more time, and again it is connected to the outflow disinfectant. So here again it is treated, and finally from the sixth chamber it is flushing out and going into the ocean sources. So finally see here, the rainwater is directly going and the sanitary water is going in a various treatment process and coming out as a storm water, just like. So like this the process. If you get a question like this, right? So you can draw a rough diagram how the process is going on by taking a house example, how the water, how the sewage, how the sanitary sewage is carried out from the home to the outside, right? Next, septic influent percolates to the water table. So when it is the groundwater, if you're having a well in a villages, how these are going on. See, if you have a septic tank, how the process is going on, right? So if you're having a well, you are making a bore in the water bed. Thereby the well point, you are getting the water source and you are getting the water from the well. So this is a water table, right? Next. So the blue, this portion is a water table. This is a dry portion. There is a outer portion, right? So if you are preparing a septic tank outside of your house, so from the septic tank, so evaporation, so you require some perforation, some air, thereby the evaporation takes place, right? So and also you're having a number of channels for the drain field. So unbalance is going to the this one. So like this, we can see the septic tank design also, but which is not in the syllabus, but how the primary sewage treatment is going on, right? So this is a way of showing the process. Next, the next slide. Introduction to the flotation. What is the meaning of flotation, right? So this flotation you can see in the primary stage of sewage plant. So whenever the water is purified, right? Water purification involves solid or liquid separation. So why we are doing purification? So one thing, you want to separate water or you want to separate liquid, right? So here the main intention is to separate water from liquid. Sorry, to separate solids from liquid. అదే యూనిట్ 5లోకి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు the main concept is to separate solid from the liquid. Here from liquid to solid, akkada solid from liquid. Akkada we require sludge management lo we require solid, whereas in the primary and secondary treatment of sanitary sewage we mainly focus on water, right? So the water purification is usually involves the removal of solid or liquid separation, liquid from the sewer pipe. The most well tried, which are undoubtedly sedimentation and filtration process, right? So these are sedimentation and filtration process, which are the methods of removal of this solid or liquid. These are widely used in the production of potable water, and a little attention has been devoted to the alternatives. So the sedimentation process and filtration, these are widely accepted and used process in the separation of liquid versus solids. Next, what is the meaning of definition of flotation? Flotation may be defined as transfer of suspended phase from a bulk of dispersion medium to the atmosphere or liquid interface by the means of bubble attachment. So if we get a 2 marks question, define flotation or describe the purpose of flotation. So you have to write this thing. So it is defined as a transfer of suspended phase from a bulk of a dispersion medium to the liquid interface. So transferring of one stage to other stage by the means of bubble attachment is nothing but flotation. So transferring of what? Bulk amount of solid material or bulk amount of liquid interface by the means of bubble attachment, right? The three basic processes involved, therefore, are bubble generation, bubble attachment, and solids separation, right? So in the flotation requires three processes to be involved. What are the three processes? First one is bubble generation, second one is a bubble attachment, third one is a solids separation. Solids separation. Flotation is very effective method. Flotation is very effective method of solid liquid separation, which has been used in use outside the water treatment field for more than a century. So what the concept is saying? Flotation is a very effective method of liquid or solid separation, which has been used outside the water treatment plant for many years, right? Originally applied in the field of mineral processing. So where it is applied in the field of mineral processing, it now provides the means for concentrating over 95% of world's base metals. So it is concentrating, it is mainly focusing on 95% of world's base metals in the ground. So this flotation process is applied generally for mineral processing, where now it is useful for also water treatment methods also. Initially, flotation is generally used for mineral processing to remove to the extraction of these metals, 95% of base metals from the earth crust inside the water. Now this flotation has been is effectively used for water treatment plant also for removal of solid liquid separation, right? Next. In addition, it has become increasingly important in such diversified applications. So keep on changing in the technology, keep on changes in the water treatment facilities and water treatment plant. So this flotation has been increasingly choose the best method for separation of liquid solid medium. So what are the various methods of application these are using means? The first one is the separation of the seeds. The first method is separation of seeds. Okay. Next, separation of seeds means whatever the agriculture seeds you are using for the processing of fields, processing of agro-based industries. The application is the separation of seeds. Next, second one, recovery fat. So recovery of wool fat which is coming from the animals. For the recovery also, this type of flotation process is generally used. Next, third one, the separation of ink from repulped paper stock. So before this water treatment, these are the applications which are used commercially. So which are used commercially. So what are these things? In agro-based industries, the second one is from the animal husbandry, that is the removal of wool, removal of wool fat from the sheeps. Next one, the separation of ink from repulped paper stock. Okay, na? The separation of ink from the during in the paper manufacturing company, separation of ink from repulped paper stock. So there also we are using this type of flotation process. Next, peas and pea pods. So in agriculture also we are using for peas and pea pods. Next one is coal from slate. So we're extracting the slate from the coal in the coal mines. There is also the other application where this flotation process is using. Next, gluten from the starch. So these are the food grade elements. These are the food grade elements where the starch is removed, from the gluten. Next, oils from industrial waste. The next application where this flotation process is used is oils from industrial waste. Oils from the industrial waste. Next, more recently in wastewater treatment plant. So where are we now? We are in this eighth application, that is wastewater treatment application. Understood? So these methods are widely effectively used in other extensively fields, whereas oil fields, oil and gas fields, mineral oil fields, agricultural, food and paper industries, we are using this type of methods. Now more recently we are using in this water and wastewater treatment methods, right? Next, flotation. The flotation can be efficient and versatile method. Flotation is a very more versatile and very widely used method of solid liquid separation. Its use in water clarification as an alternative to sedimentation has not been considered to any great extent. So clarification, water clarification, the primary treatment process flow, wherever you are using the sedimentation process, so the flotation will be the alternative for this sedimentation process, right? Means simply keep in mind sedimentation and flotation are maximum similar. So this is a method alternative to the sedimentation process which are using in a great extent. Next, second point. Possible advantages of flotation over sedimentation include improved removal of algae, low capital cost, and production of sludge having higher solid content. So sedimentation process lo manamu last slide so we have discussed about primary sedimentation tank, how the process is going on, how the scum is formed on the top surface, how the sludge is formed below the sedimentation tank. So then what are the advantages of this one? Flotation means advantages of flotation over sedimentation includes what? Improved removal of algae, right? Improved removal of organic material, that is algae. And also when compared to sedimentation process, flotation process is very less, therefore low capital cost, and the production of sludge having higher solid content. So for example in sedimentation, if you see, if the sedimentation tank or the process is taking 60% of sludge in the tank, whereas this flotation process is taking more than 75% or 80% of solid sludge in the tank. So these are the possible advantages over sedimentation process. అర్థమైంది కదా? What is the first advantage? Removal of excess algae. Next, low capital cost. Next, higher solid content. Okay na? Next, third one. For water clarification, dissolved air flotation has a number of significant advantages over the other flotation systems. For water clarification, dissolved air flotation has a number of significant advantages over the other flotation systems and warrants particular consideration. So whenever for water clarification system, so the dissolved air flotation has very much advantages over the other flotation systems, which gives the proper specifications, right? Next, research should be undertaken to determine the efficacy of dissolved air flotation under a variety of conditions. So whenever you are using these flotation methods, so research and development should be made for to determine the dissolved air flotation by various conditions, the main factors affecting the operation, and an estimation of the likely cost. So whenever you are doing any R&D operations, R&D methods for this flotation thing, we have to undergo the estimation of the cost and also the purification process and also the quality process, right? So these are the main purpose of flotation. So you got a question just like define flotation or describe the purpose. What are the purposes of flotation? You have to write this points, this 3 or 4 points with this definition, right? Next, principles of flotation. Next topic is principles of flotation. So coming to the principles of flotation, with the definition of flotation, we are having two types of things. Well, first one is a bubble attachment, second one is a bubble generation. So coming to the principles of flotation, we have to study two methods of principles of flotation. First one is bubble generation, second one is a bubble attachment method, right? Okay, so we'll see the first one. What's the meaning of bubble generation? So many gases are suitable in that many gases are suitable. Air is the cheapest and most readily available for bubble generation. So in the bubble generation method, we are using number of gases for the test. Coming to the number of gas, air, commonly available air in the atmosphere is very cheaper and easily available material for the bubble generation process. It can be introduced. It can be introduced either by dispersion. How it is introduced? The air is introduced by dispersion method or by releasing air previously dissolved in the water under pressure. So, so we are using air as a medium for this bubble generation method, which is freely available in the atmosphere. Then the how air is retrieved? The air is retrieved by dispersion method or by releasing previously dissolved in water. అంటే అంతకుముందు టెస్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు ఉన్న air available in the water pressure. These are the two things. Then these two aeration techniques. What are the two aeration techniques? Dispersion method and water pressure method. These are the two aeration techniques give rise to two basically different flotation systems, right? So what are the two various methods? First one is the dispersion method. First one is a dispersion method and second one is a water pressure method. So these two aeration techniques give rise to two basic different flotation systems. What are those? Dispersed air flotation method and dissolved air flotation method. So ఒకటి disperse అవ్వడం air flotation లో, other one is air లోపల dissolve అవ్వడం, right? The former, the next one, the former finds a particular application in the mineral industry, while the latter has been used in the sewage and industrial waste treatment, algae removal, oil removal, and water clarification. So whenever you are using dispersion method and water pressure method, with these techniques, again two basic different flotation systems are brought up. What are those? First one is dispersed air flotation, which is used in the mineral industry. And what is the second one? Dissolved air flotation, which are generally widely used for the industrial waste treatment, algae removal, oil removal, and water clarification. Right? Yes. Coming to the bubble attachment. So in the bubble attachment also, there are three methods of bubble attachment which can lead to the flotation. So which can lead to the flotation. Then what are the three bubble attachments methods? The first one is addition of gas bubble to the suspended phase as a result of what? Collisions between the bubbles and the suspended phase. So addition means joining. Addition of gas bubbles to the suspended phase either by collision between the bubbles and the suspended phase or precipitation of bubbles onto the suspended phase. Precipitation of bubbles on suspended phase, which is nothing but nucleation method. So addition of solid gas bubbles, you are having two things. One is collision between the bubbles and the suspended phase. Other one is a nucleation method. Next, what is the second method? The trapping of rising gas bubbles in the flow structure. Flow means the top surface of the water. So water pine layer ఏదైతే solid గా ఉంటుందో, simply we are calling them as a flow, right? Or scum. So what is the second method here? Second method is trapping of rising bubbles, gas bubbles in the floating structure. Water మీద ఏదైతే float అవుతుందో, water bubbles floating on the water, trapping of rising gas bubbles in the flow structure. First one is addition of gas bubbles, second one is trapping of rice bubbles, and third one is absorption of gas bubbles into the flow structure as it is formed. Second one is trapping of rising gases. Third one is absorption of gas bubbles into the flow structure. So these are the three methods where they are used for the bubble gas gas attachment. Bubble gas attachment. Next, although in the air dissolved air flotation, although in dissolved air float, we are discussing about only dissolved, not dispersed. Why? Why? Because dispersion is mainly used for dispersed for mineral industries, whereas dissolved is mainly used for water treatment. Okay. So the dissolved air flotation bubble attachment can proceed by all these methods. Although in a dissolved air flotation, bubble attachment can proceed by all these methods. In dispersed air flotation method, third one does not apply as the bubbles are large and rise rapidly to allow their incorporation into the glowing of flow structure. Flow means a floating just like ice. How the ice is floating on the water, nothing but a flow. In dissolved air flotation, a slow rise of much smaller bubbles can permit absorption in the flow structure. So in this method, a slow rise of bubbles can permit the absorption in the flow structure. So these are the various methods of principles of flotation. One is bubble generation, second one is the bubble attachment. So what is the purpose means? The purpose is to remove the solid material from the water, just like sedimentation process అని చెప్పాలి, right? Next, monitoring of water quality. Next topic is how the water is monitored, for this treatment process. So generally, what are the various treatment process you are finding? The various treatment processes are primary treatment process, secondary treatment process. In the primary treatment process, again we are having various steps to go, whereas in the secondary treatment also we are having various steps to go. The third treatment process not for water, but it is for mainly solid material, right? Next, coming to the water quality monitoring. How you are monitoring the water, we will see in this session. Next, coming to the introduction, the sampling and analysis of sewage is done in the treatment units of STP. STP means sampling treatment procedure, right? Or a sampling treatment plants. So the sampling of water and analysis of water can be done by using the treatment units in STPs to find out whether the organic matter are removed as designed. So why you are treating the water quality? In order to remove organic and inorganic matter. So sampling and analysis of sewage can be done by using the STP to find out whether the organic matters are removed as designed. It is also done in locations of sewage discharge to make sure that discharge standards are satisfied. So one case, what is the one case? Taking the water from the sources of water where the water is located or stored, and you are taking the water to the laboratories and you are testing. The other way of doing is it is also done where the locations of sewage discharge. So ekkadaithe sewage discharge is happening, so at that point we can do the experiment also to make sure that discharge standard procedures were satisfied. So we can do two ways. One is outdoor, other one is the indoor. Indoor means by using laboratory test. Outdoor means where the water is discharging directly into the other means. There we are collecting the water. At that point only we are testing the water. Right? Next, sampling. Next one is sampling. In general, there are two categories of samples are to be collected. Right? So generally, sampling అనేది we are having two categories of sampling, collecting the samples. So what is the first one? Physical and chemical test. So we are doing physical and chemical test. The second one is microbial test. Second one is microbiological test. In both the cases, care should be taken to avoid entry of extraneous materials such as slit, scum, flotation matters into the sampling bottles. So whenever you are going for sampling, whenever you are going for testing of the waters, either chemically or microbiologically, so very care should be taken for collection of the water. So what is the care? Whenever you are collecting the water, you should avoid the entry of scum material, slit material, flow material on the into the bottles. So bottles లో ఎప్పుడైతే మీరు టెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నారో the water should be very very transferable, should be very transparent. So the solid particles or the flow materials, slit or scum material should not enter into the bottle. So in such a way, care should be taken while taking the samples, right? Second, how the selection of sampling location is proceeded. So in the sampling, already we have mentioned about there are two types of sampling methods. Water sampling ఎన్ని రకాలు ఉన్నాయి, టూ మెథడ్స్ ఉన్నాయి మనం స్టార్టింగ్ లో చెప్పుకున్నాం. వాట్ ఆర్ ద టూ మెథడ్స్? వన్ ఇస్ అ గ్రాప్ శాంపుల్ మెథడ్ అండ్ అనదర్ వన్ ఇస్ అ కంబైన్డ్ శాంపుల్ మెథడ్, right? So grab sample method, taking a your measuring tube, your measuring glass tube, and you are testing with the grab samples collected where it is there, in that you are collecting. Other one is a combined. So we are taking three or four things and we are combining into the single thing and we are testing. So these two analysis from already starting of the unit lo cheppukunnam, right? Now what is the next method? The next thing, how you are selecting the location. So whenever you are collecting the samples, you are collecting in a two ways. Denik test cheyadaniki physical and chemical test and also microbiological test. ఎన్ని రకాలుగా చేస్తున్నాం? Two methods we are doing. The one is a grab sample method, the second one is a combined sample method. But this topic says how you are selecting the location. So మీరు వాటర్ ని కలెక్ట్ చేయడానికి where you are selecting the location, that is the main point. Okay, now theoretically there is no end to the number of sample stations that can be used in laboratory, STP, right, sampling treatment plant. But it should be remembered that the best monitoring can be possible only when the barest minimum and objectively oriented sample locations and the tests are carried out instead of accumulating all sun-dry data that will only confuse the situation. So there is no particular selection or source of samples of taking the water in the STP. So we are having number of ways where we can take the samples and tested will be carried out, right? So we will see those step by step. This is because the sewage passes through the STP on a time deferred scale, and if samples are taken all at the same time from the inlet to outfall, the chances are not or that there is no representative of the true performance. So ఏం చెప్తున్నారు? So whenever the samples are taken from the STP, so these are taken at the same time at different places of disposal. So whenever you are taking the samples at the time deferred scale, as the samples are taken at the same time, so performance అనేది మనకి ఎక్కువ చూపించలేము. So we cannot get true exact performance, we cannot get 100% performance whenever you are taking the samples at the same time in the STP. So that's why a suggested set of sampling points are chosen. So this is because and చెప్పి you have to understand this point. So why it is not possible means, so we are taking the samples on a time deferred scale and the samples are taken at all the same time. Inlet to outfall లో జరుగుతున్నప్పుడు we are taking the test at all the same time. That's why we are not getting 100% results. So that's why a suggested set of sampling points can be shown below. So what are those? The first one is raw sewage samples should be collected after the screens or grit chambers. So what is the first way? Raw sewage samples should be collected after the screens. So ప్రైమరీ ట్రీట్మెంట్ ప్రాసెస్లో స్క్రీన్స్ తర్వాత వచ్చే వాటర్ కానీ grid chambers చేసిన ప్రాసెస్ చేసిన తర్వాత వచ్చే వాటర్ని కానీ we have to collect, right? Second one, samples of sewage from primary clarifier or secondary clarifier should be taken from the trough or pipe before discharge vias. So whenever the water is going from the primary or secondary treatment, for discharging, we have to take the samples at the primary clarifier or secondary clarifier. That is the second point meaning. Next, input to top feed media, inlet to top feed media units should be collected below the distribution arm on the sewage from the outlet chamber or at an inlet to the secondary sedimentation tank. So inlet to top feed media. So this is other way of taking the samples that are collected in the secondary sedimentation tank. Next, a point. Next one is a point where there is a good mixing should be selected for sampling. So a point where there is good mixing should be selected for sampling of mixed liquor with the aeration tanks in the activated sludge process. So this is also other way of collecting the samples. Next one, inlet samples of septic tanks, IMHOF tanks and soil treatment units such as waste stabilization ponds, ditches and aerated lagoons should be collected ahead of the tanks in their inlet chambers. Outlet samples should be collected outside the units receiving the vias of channels of chambers. So this is the other way of collecting the samples. Next one is sampling within these tanks should be specified in terms of depth or distance or both. Next, sampling is taking the water, taking the samplings within this tank should be specified in terms of depth, how much depth and how much distance you are taking the samples. Next, samples of raw sludge. Sample sludge ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది? Sludge will be settled at the bottom of the tank. So samples of raw sludge should be taken from sludge sumps or from the delivery side of the sludge pumps through sampling cocks. ఎక్కడైతే మనకి అవుట్పుట్ ఎక్కడైతే మనకి ఎగ్జిట్ ఉందో ఎంట్రీ ఉందో ఎవ్రీ స్టేజ్ వీ కెన్ హ్యావ్ ఎ ఛాన్స్ ఆఫ్ కలెక్టింగ్ ద శాంపుల్స్ అని చెప్తున్నాం, రైట్? నెక్స్ట్ హెచ్, నెక్స్ట్ పాయింట్, return sludge sample in activated sludge plant is collected at the point of discharge in aeration tank. So the other method is return sludge sample in sludge plant low collected at the point of discharge. There is also other way of doing the process. Next, I, samples from mixed primary and secondary sludge should be collected at the point of delivery to the digester. So we can take where there is a mixing of primary and secondary sludge can be done. There also you can take the samples for testing. Next, digester sludge samples may be drawn from the samples points in the digester. Right? Next, digester superintrant may be drawn from the sampling cocks provided for the purpose or through sampling ports or digester none. So like this, we are having various methods of collecting the water from the sewage. So if you see the figure, I will show you the figure. So if you see the figure, from here you can take the samples, 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 from here, wherever the entry and exit you are having, at that point you can take the samples. So there is no proper method of collecting the samples. Wherever there is a requirement of entry or exit, at that things you can take the samples, right? So the time is